You're listening to The Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with Lyndia Grant.
Well, good evening, Radio 1 listeners. It's Friday, April 21st, 2023. Good to be here with you again this week. We've got another exciting show for you, as we always do. You all know we're going to have our own Dr. Julianne Malvo first. She's going to talk to us about politics and the economy. But my second guest this week is Dr. Miranda Ward. We're going to be talking to her about HIV/AIDS and how it has escalated in the African American community more than 300%. So tell your friends to tune in so they can hear all about the details from both of our guests. Now let's go to Dr. Julianne Malvo. She is a nationally known economist, dean at Cal State Los Angeles. She's one of two president emeritus at Bennett College. She has her PhD in economics, world traveler, speaker, president of Push Excel, and she is the youth organization founded by Reverend Jesse Lewis Jackson in Chicago, Illinois. Let's talk politics, Dr. J. How are you today?
I am great, blessed and highly favored, and happy to be with you this great day. So many things for us to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So
go right ahead.
I'm in the DMV this week. I am attending the Institute for the Black World Conference at the Baltimore Hilton Baltimore Convention Center. It opened on Wednesday, and it'll go through Saturday. I'll only be with folks until Friday. But it's an exciting conference where the president of Ghana will be there, the vice chancellor of the University of West Indies, Hilary Beckel will be there. Julius Garvey will be closing the event on Saturday. I won't be able to be there for that, but it's amazing. People want to know more about it, ibw21.org. Again, ibw21.org. Lyndia, if you want to go, I'm going to try to hook you up. Let me know.
All right. Yeah, let's go ahead. We'll talk.
Now, the biggest news in the nation is the shooting of this child. If you see his picture, all you can say is a child.
He was so good. He was so handsome. He's not dead. He's not dead.
No, he's making it. But this depraved white man, Andrew Lester, shot him in the head. Mm-hmm. What had happened was, the young man went to pick up his brothers. His mom asked him to pick up his brothers. He went to 115th Street when he should have gone to 115th Terrace, which was just one block away. Mm-hmm. And those of us who do urban living know how you have 3 or 4 streets with the same name, but one is drive, one is street. Anyway, it was an honest mistake. He went to knock on the door and got shot in the head. And then when he fell down, got shot in the arm. He is going to have some damage. Bless his aunt, who basically put up a GoFundMe, and they've raised $1.6, I believe, $1 million. He's going to need that for any number of reasons. But here's the bigger question. How dare somebody shoot a child who just knocked on their door by mistake? What's that about? How dare they? I already hear white people say he's 84. I don't give a pluck if he's 84 and 104. He attempted to kill a child. Our young people, what I'm thinking about, Lindy, is a trauma. How do all of our young people who see this, how do they recover from this trauma? How do all of our people recover from this trauma? But it really does raise questions about gun control. It raises questions about the licenses to bear arms. It raises all kind of questions. Breaking news, broken by Roland Martin yesterday. Ben Crump called his program to say that President Biden called Ralph Yarl and spoke with him and with his parents and pledged to do more. I don't know what that means, but it was good to know that President Biden was on top of that. Vice President Harris has also expressed her outrage. This is a big story. It's not going to go away, but we're going to put a pin in it there and move on. I want to talk about the debt ceiling because you know that was an issue that we had to deal with at the close of the last Congress. As the congressional hands changed from Democrat to Republican, The Republicans have vowed they will not raise the debt ceiling unless President Biden makes some concessions. So right now they're saying they will not raise the debt ceiling unless President Biden agrees to cut domestic spending. McCarthy, Senate House Speaker, was on Wall Street on Tuesday, and what he said was they're ready to let the country go into default if Biden does not cut domestic spending. What does he mean by domestic spending? He doesn't mean the military. He means Social Security. He means social programs. He means education. That's what he means. And he's got allies like that Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. I don't know where they get such dumb women to be on the Congress. But anyway, he has back. This is going to be a 3-month fight because essentially if the debt ceiling is not raised by late June, early July, the country will go into default with our debtors, which are international partners. So this is a big challenge. The next thing that I want to talk about is basically the opposition to Mr. the Orange Man. It's really quite funny. So we have his opponents lining up. Chris Christie says he's going to get in it. We always know the others. But Mr. DeSatin, Florida Governor Ron DeSatin, he's making his mark by taking on Mickey Mouse. Now, I don't mean former President Trump is Mickey Mouse. I mean that DeSatin is fighting Disney. And so it's quite fascinating to watch the way that this is playing out. But basically, we know that we've got a bunch of interesting people. Now, last thing, and you correct me if I'm wrong in terms of time, and I know you will, but you know, as I do, I go on and on. But Fox and Dominion. Dominion is a voting company that Fox accused of being biased against Trump. They went on a big rampage against them, causing their stock to fall. Now they've agreed to $787 billion in a settlement, acknowledging that they've made false claims. All right? That's important, but what does it mean in terms of all the people who were defrauded? How many people believe their nonsense? That's the claim, the settlement. You know, they were about to go to court. They made the settlement. If they were willing to settle for $787.5 billion, what was the real damage? That's a question that we have to ask. Do I have another?
That was a lot. Yeah, that's it. Thank you, Dr. J. All right. Well, we appreciate you for bringing us up to date on these latest issues. We are always glad to hear from you. And if I can, I certainly would like to take you up on the adventure that you have going on over in Baltimore. All right.
I will check in with you.
I will check
in with you. Take care. Everybody have a wonderful week.
All right. Thank you. Bye.
If it wasn't for my care coach at AmeriHealth, I probably wouldn't be so healthy right now. As a man, you know we don't get checkups or see a doctor regularly anyways. It's probably just a man thing because none of my partners go either. We know we should, but we just don't, and hope it works out.
So what changed for you?
AmeriHealth assigned me a care coach, somebody that gives one-on-one help, answer questions, explain things, and help set my appointments. She also helped me understand what having high blood pressure really means and ways to manage it so it doesn't kill me. It ain't nothing to play with. If you're a member of AmeriHealth, ask for a care coach. I'm glad I got mine.
At AmeriHealth, if you need a care coach, you can have one. Just call us at 1-877-759-6224 to get connected. 1-877-759-6224. This program is funded in part by the government of the District of Columbia Department of Healthcare Finance. Mayor Muriel Bowser.
Washington and former religion columnist Lyndia Grant.
Who Moved My Cheese is a book about two types of people, those who accept change quickly and move on, and those who hem and haw and try to figure things out. They didn't see change coming and waste valuable time trying to figure out what happened. How did this happen to me? Let's call this group procrastinators. The lesson inside the cheese story is simple. Life is change. Brother said it best when he said, if I accept you as you are, I will make you worse. However, if I treat you as though you are what you're capable of becoming, I help you become that. We must change and keep moving. The Bible tells us to seek and you shall find, knock and the door will be open unto you, ask and it shall be given.
Read more in the religion column of the Washington Informer, an award-winning African-American newspaper. We don't report crime or gossip, just positive news. Pick up the Washington Informer or visit us online at washingtoninformer.com. Call 202-561-4100 for more information.
This is Frank Smith with the African American Civil War Museum in Washington, D.C., located at 1925 Vermont Avenue Northwest on the Green Line. Did you know that a recent study found that children who visit museums do better in school and in life than children who do not? So parents, teachers, and preachers, let's get moving. I promise you, if you bring your children to the African American Civil War Museum, they will be inspired by the images that they see. They will be impressed by our living history reenactors who are always available, and they will be involved in our scavenger hunt that takes them throughout our exhibit. That's the African American Civil War Museum, 1925 Vermont Avenue. Our hours are 10 to 6:30 on weekdays, 12 to 4 on Saturdays and Sundays. See it, be inspired.
Today is Friday, and it's good to be here with you again today. I am so excited about sharing another show with you. Let's say hello to Dr. Miranda Ward. She is a health professional for the District of Columbia, and she's also an adjunct professor at George Washington University. Recently, Dr. Ward, I'm getting ready to say Miranda, Dr. Ward was appointed by D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to fill the Ward 8 seat on the D.C. Commission on Health Equity. So welcome to the show, Dr. Miranda. How are you today?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for the invitation to join. And feel free to call me Miranda, So either way works.
All right. Congratulations on your appointment.
Well, thank you. Yes. So it's been, about 4 years now where I've been serving on this commission. A lot of people don't know that D.C. actually has an Office of Health Equity. And so we advise that office, and D.C. has its own health equity report that came out back in 2019. So we just want to make sure we have community conversations, in every ward of the city, so they understand how to make sense of this, neighborhood level data. And I look forward to kind of talking a little bit more specifically about HIV.
Okay. Well, we're going to do this. I'm going to share with the listeners, and thank you for being here today. As shown in the latest CDC Vital Signs report, tremendous progress has been made in the global fight to eliminate HIV. However, many people, specifically minority communities, continue to struggle with the impact of the stigma, the fear, and misinformation. And I think a whole lot of folks probably think it's pretty much over because it's so not, so much about death and dying as it used to be. So it's preventing them from having tough conversations with medical professionals about the preventive measures for their physical and sexual health. Today, Dr. Miranda Ward, who is an associate professor at George Washington University, is going to outline the current trends, and she's going to discuss what the most impacted, who is the most impacted. And she's going to review some of the common misconceptions and support you all overall so that you can find out how to be well-being. Now, I want to just say before I even ask her the first question, there's so many senior citizens out there, and in the D.C. Democratic Women's Club, we had this topic on our Women's History panel. And I was surprised to hear about there being a problem with so many seniors. I'm a baby boomer myself. I ain't out there. I'm not out there doing nothing, but I'm listening. Tell me about the progress we're making in the global fight against HIV and how that compares to the progress we made in our own country and right here in D.C.
So this is a really good question to start off with, and I appreciate you, kind of setting the tone for your listeners about how it is really important to also talk about very specific subgroups. So I'm happy to actually talk about, those who are over the age of 65. because I think that that's an often overlooked group when we talk about, disparities, and specifically when we talk about HIV. So I'll definitely come back to that. But to get to this kind of global fight, I think that, the reason why this is a really kind of timely question when we talk about, global fight against HIV, we're actually talking about strides right here in our own backyard, right? Because literally just last month, we commemorated 20 years, that's 2 decades, of what's known as PEPFAR, which is actually an acronym that stands for the U.S. President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief. What is that? That's basically legislation that, was passed, like I said, 2 decades ago, that provides aid to, around the world to really provide life-saving treatment. And so I'll say the biggest achievement or progress that's been made because of PEPFAR is literally making treatment available to people living with HIV around the globe. And so in that, in this kind of vital signs report that CDC came out with last month, they were really highlighting the fact that, there was literally a 300-time increase in the number of people that are now on HIV treatment. And that's incredible.
300.
Right. 300 times. Yes.
Oh my God.
300 time increase. Not a 1 time, 50 time. No, 300, time increase in the number of people that are on treatment. And that's not even the best news, right? It's because it's really not enough to get on treatment if your treatment is not going to help you with viral suppression, right? We want the load of the virus that's in the body of somebody who has HIV to be low enough where it's not detectable, to be low enough where they're not, spreading it to someone else. So 95% of people around the world that actually are on HIV treatment have reduced their viral load to levels where they're less likely to transmit it during childbirth, they're less likely to transmit it during sex, and the funding stream that, that PEPFAR offers is actually covering 62% of people that, are actually on these antiretrovirals. So, it's really important that we do consider these wins. This is incredible progress. But as you said, when you kind of, opened up the conversation, we also have to name the ongoing threat to health equity, right? Not just around the world, but right here in the U.S. and in D.C., right? So I'll say that I'm very concerned with the well-documented, like you mentioned, the persistent stigma that really does impact the uptake of these life-saving, treatments, right? Again, we have evidence that these treatments work. And this is exactly why, if you think about it, one of the things you noted is, people were thinking that it's not really an issue as much anymore. And you're right. And the reason is because it's almost kind of like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, the treatment is so effective, right, that these days people that actually have HIV are not dying from HIV. They're dying from cancer or heart disease.
And so we all think it went away. It's gone away now.
Exactly, right. Exactly. So this is an infectious disease that's not the death sentence that it used to be back in 1981, right? So now people are living really long, productive lives. Like they're not even thinking about their HIV because they only have to take 1 pill instead of like a cocktail of pills that they have to take back in the day. We have so many scientific advancements and just a lot, modern medicine that's really allowing them to live these productive, healthy lives. And so HIV, even though, yes, it's an infectious disease, it's operating more like a chronic disease, right? You just live with it. And, you don't have to necessarily think that, oh, well, I'm suffering from this and it's going to turn into AIDS. Like, it's not turning into AIDS like in the ways that it used to be in the 80s and 90s, So I feel like, with the whole, like in Magic Johnson, for example, is like the poster child for the Black community of like us just really recognizing that, again, HIV meds work. And I feel like that's also produced some stigma. And I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but there's this idea or this misinformation that, oh, look, he doesn't have it anymore. No, he does have it. It's just showing you that HIV meds work. So you can take your medication and not even have to think about, feeling and looking, a certain way or not being able to, be meaningfully involved in your community or, basically have a, productive, healthy relationship with your partner, all of those things that, again, like the misinformation that usually gets attached to having an infectious disease, that's no longer the case. And so, so that's why I said it's like a double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's like, oh, this is great news. But then on the flip side, people have taken that to mean that, oh, I guess HIV is not as serious, or I guess, that means that, it was never real to begin with, or like, all of the, sometimes there's some conspiracy theories that can kind of creep in. around where did HIV go? It's like, no, it's still rampant. Please believe. I have the data to definitely prove that. But I will say, stigma is definitely rooted in fear. It's rooted in misinformation. And it really does impact the social and the structural drivers of health. And one of the things I want to talk about is, like, when we talk about health, we're not just talking about healthcare access. We have to talk about, access to food, access to housing, right? Because all of those things literally impact our opportunities for health. And then, of course, we have to talk about things like racism and heterosexism. And so we have our work cut out for us to really make sure that the social realities of people that are exposed to HIV does mirror these positive scientific advancements that we've seen. It's because basically it's the only way that we're going to eliminate disparities that we see amongst minoritized communities who make up the highest proportion of new HIV cases.
Well, Miranda, I'm almost out of time already because I only have a 30-minute show. Okay. But I want you to tell them how we as a community can improve conversations about HIV and give them some numbers to contact or places to go to learn more, or I have to have you back again.
You have to have me. I need more time. I'm just getting warmed up. Okay?
I know that. I have to have you back.
Okay, yes. Okay, so what can we do as a community? Well, first of all, we can normalize conversations on sex. Let's start with that, okay? Mm-hmm. And we can use sex-positive language. What is sex-positive language? That basically is talking about, we need to stop associating sex with disease. Sex is bad. Sex is natural, okay? And then sex is pleasurable. Like if we actually use sex positive language, then the stigma and the embarrassment and shame attached to sex, and therefore anything that can come from sex actually will go away. So that's how you reduce stigma, right? So we need to focus on health, not risk. And so, but in the meantime, if you're focusing on your health and focusing on prevention, then you would care and want to get tested regularly, right? At least once a year if you're sexually active. And that's really important because, about 13% of Black people with HIV in the U.S. don't know their status. And that's because they're not getting tested and they're sexually active, right? So that's really important. We also want to talk to our sex partners, right? And what is their status? What is your status? And really kind of talk about what you can do to, together to lower your risk. And as we know, just having sex at all, there's going to be risk. So there's condoms don't, the only 100% way to eliminate risk is not to have sex at all. And so since people are going to have sex, then you talk about how you're going to lower your risk. But also we have to talk to our medical teams about sex too, right? Mm-hmm. And we have to talk about what we're doing to protect ourselves, what we're doing that potentially is exposing us to HIV, talk about PrEP, which is the pre-exposure prophylaxis, which is the daily pill that you can take if you're HIV negative to stay negative. So a lot of people don't know about PrEP and how, you very well may be a good candidate for it. That's something you have to talk to your doctor about. And so I also want us to advocate for, to really prioritize HIV in this COVID era that we're living in, because that's one of the things that happened, during the pandemic is, HIV testing took a dip because there was so much focus on COVID, right? And again, rightfully so. We were in a pandemic, right? The height of the pandemic, everybody was focused on getting COVID vaccines, but we really can't afford to put more effort in one area versus HIV because, again, both of them are highly stigmatized and both of them disproportionately impact the same patient populations. So, it's both and. We need to do both. So really, a couple of really good resources are HIV.gov and CDC.gov. They have, on the website you'll see posters, you'll see, campaigns, you'll see literature, you'll see resources, you'll see, links to, apps that you can download. You'll see, you can type in your zip code and actually find a clinic near you. There's just so many resources, so I would definitely suggest starting there. But also, you can get connected to the HIV disparities work that I do at 2in1, the letters, spelling it out, 2in1.SMHS, which is School of Medicine and Health Sciences, .GWU, which is George Washington University, .edu.
All right. Well, that sounds like a winner. We thank you so much. I'm so sorry we ran out of time, but
no worries.
At least we gave them some information. And if you all didn't get that down, just call Dr. Miranda, Maranda Ward at George Washington University. Whoever answers the phone can track her down. All right.
You can call me. Yes, yes.
Thank you so much. She's got some resources for you. Thank you for being my guest today, Dr. Miranda.
Yes, that was so much fun. I look forward to coming back on the show.
All right. Thank you for tuning in to the Lyndia Grant Show. That does it for us this week. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, like us on Facebook, and read the Religion Corner of the Washington Informer newspaper. We've been writing that corner now for 18 years. And I'd like to invite you to come out and join us at my church, All Nations Baptist Church, located at number 2 Rhode Island Avenue. If you don't have a church home, we've been there for more than 30 years. Our pastor is the Reverend Dr. James Coleman, and we start at 10:30 a.m. with Sunday school, and then our service is short, starting at 11:30. I close with this. Words, thoughts, and deeds have a boomerang effect, so be careful what you send out. Scripture says, my people perish for the lack of knowledge. So think on these things. From the Lyndia Grant Show, I'm your host, Lyndia Grant. Until next week.
Thank you for listening to the Lyndia Grant Show. Think on these things with your host, Lyndia Grant.